Chapter 12. All by electricity, sir, says Captain Nemo, showing me the instruments hanging from the walls of his room. Here are the appliances required by the navigation of the Nautilus. Here, as in the living room, I always have them in front of me, and it tells me my situation and my exact direction in the middle of the ocean. One are known to you, such as the thermometer that gives the internal temperature of the Nautilus, the barometer that weighs the weight of the air and predicts the changes of time, the hygrometer that marks the degree of dryness of the atmosphere, the storm glass in the mixture breaking down announces the arrival of storms, compass that directs my route, the sextant that speaks the height of the sun, teaches me poorly attitude, the chronometers that allow me to calculate my longitude and the end of the day, and night glasses that serve me to scrutinize all the points of the horizon when the Nautilus has returned to the surface of the waves. These are the instruments customary to the navigator, answered, and I know the use of them, but here are others that probably meet the particular requirements of the Nautilus. This dial that I see and that travels a moving hand is not a manometer. It is a manometer, in fact, put in communication with the water, the external pressure it gives me at the same time the depth at which my apparatus and its probes of a new species are held, are thermometric sounds which report the temperature of the various layers of water. And these other instruments, whose use I do not guess. And if, Mr. Teacher, I must give you some explanations, says the captain. Animals, please listen to me. He kept silence for a few moments. Then he says, he is a powerful agent, obedient, fast, easy, that bends to all uses, and that reigns master on my board. Everything is done by him. He enlightens me. He heats me. He is the soul of my mechanical apparatus. This agent is the electricity. The electricity, but cried to his surprise, yes, sir. However, you possess an extreme speed of movement which does not match well with the power of electricity. Until now, its dynamic power remains very restricted and could produce only two small forces. The professor replied, Captain Nemo, my electricity is not that of everyone, and this is what you will allow me to tell you. I will not insist on, sir, and I will be content to be very surprised, and of such a result. One question, however, to which you will not answer if it is indiscreet. The elements you use to produce this wonderful must wear zinc quickly. For example, how to replace you since you have no communication with the land. Your question will have its answer. Answered Captain Nemo, I will tell you, first of all, that there are at the bottom of the sea zinc mines of silver, gold, iron whose exploitation would most certainly be practicable. But I borrowed nothing from these metals of the earth, and I wanted to ask only the sea itself, the means to produce my electricity at the sea. Yes, Professor, and the means did not miss me. I could indeed by establishing a circuit between wires immersed at different depths to obtain electricity, and by the diversity of the temperature they were experiencing, but I preferred to use a more practical system, in which you know the composition of the seawater. On 1000 G, there are 96 hundredths and a half of water, and about 2 hundredths of a third of sodium chloride, then a small amount of magnesium, but potassium chlorides of magnesium bromide, of magnesium sulfate, of magnesium sulfate, of sulfate, and hot carbonate. You see, therefore, that the sodium chloride is met in a notable proportion, or it is this sodium that I extract from the seawater, and of which I compose but element. The sodium, yes, sir, mixed with the mercury, it forms an amalgam that holds a place from factory in benzene elements. Mercury never sucks sodium, only consumes the sea, provides it to me. I will also tell you that the sodium batteries must be considered as the most energetic, and that their electromotive force is double that of the zinced batteries. I understand, well, Captain, she excellence of sodium in the conditions where you find the sea contains it. But it still has to be extracted, in a word. And how do you make your batteries? Could obviously be used for this extraction. But if I am not mistaken, the expenditure of sodium required by the electrical devices of the gangways, the extreme quantity would therefore happen that you would consume it to produce it more. Then I do not extract it by the battery, and I simply use the heat of the earth. Conse, I insist. Let's say the sea coal, if you want to answer the captain of animals. And you can exploit submarine mines of Hiles. Mr. Scam, you will see me at work. I only ask you a little patience. Since you have time to be patient, remember only this: I owe everything to the ocean. It produces electricity, and electricity gives Nautilus heat, the light, the movement, life, in a word. But not the air you breathe, or I could manufacture the air necessary for my consumption. But it is useless, since I go back to the surface of the sea when I like it. However, if the electricity does not provide me the breathable air, it maneuvers at least powerful pumps that stores in special tanks, which allows me to extend the needs, and as long as I want my stay in the deep layers. Captain answer: I am content to admire. You have obviously found what men will probably one day find, the true dynamic power of electricity. I do not know if they will find it, coldly answered Captain Nemo. Anyway, you already know the first application I made of this precious agent. It is he who enlightens us with equality, a continuity that does not have sunlight. Now look at this clock. It is electric and walks with a regularity that defies that of the best chronometers. I divided it in 24 hours, like the Italian clocks, because for me there is neither night, Nijo, nor sun, nor one, but only this dummy light that I drive to the bottom of the sea at the moment. It is 10 a.m. perfectly other application of electricity. This dial suspended in front of our eyes serves to indicate the speed of a Nautilus. An electric wire puts it in communication with the lists of the beacon indicate, and its hand, the actual running of the aircraft, and hold. Right now we are running with a moderate speed of 15 miles an hour. It is wonderful, replied, and I see well, Captain, that you were right to use this agent, which is intended to replace the wind, water, and steam. We have not finished, Mr. Aronnax, says Captain Nemo, rising, and if you want to follow me, we will visit the rear of the Nautilus. Indeed, I already knew all the front part of this underwater boat, whose exact division is here, going from the center to the spur. The dining room of 5 meters, separated from the library by a watertight partition, that is, the 5-meter library, could not be penetrated by water. The large 10-meter lounge, separated from the master's chamber by a second watertight partition, the said 5-meter master's chamber mine of 2.50 meters, and finally an air tank of 7.50 meters, which extended up to the total stem 35 meters in length. The watertight partitions were pierced by a door, which closed hermetically by means of rubber shutters, and they ensured all safety on board the Nautilus, in case a waterway was declared to be followed by Captain Nemo. Through the passageways located at the front, and I arrived at the center of the ship, there was a kind of well that opened between 2 watertight partitions. Ladder of iron clamped to the wall led to its upper end. I asked the captain what use this ladder was used, and the shop au canoe answered, "What, you have a canoe?" replied. I was rather surprised. Probably an excellent light and unsubmersible boat that serves for the walk and the fishing. But then when you want to embark, you are forced to return to the surface of the sea. In no way this canoe adheres to the upper part of the hull of a Nautilus, and occupying a cavity arranged to receive it, it is completely bridged, absolutely watertight, and held by solid bolts. It was latter led to a core hole drilled in the hull of a Nautilus, which corresponds to a hole like this drilled in the side of the canoe. It is through this double opening that I enter the boat. One closes that of a Nautilus. I close the other, that of the canoe, by means of pressure screws. I release the bolts, and the boat rises with a prodigious rapidity to the surface of the sea. I then open the panel of the deck, carefully closed until then. I hoist my sail, where I take my oars and I take a walk. But how do you return on board? I do not come back, Mr. Aronnax. It is the Nautilus who returns to your orders, to my orders. An electric wire connects me to him. I launch telegram, and it is indeed enough say. I grise by these wonders. Nothing is simpler after having passed the cage of the staircase that ended to the platform. I aim for a cabin long of 2 meters in which Conse and Ned Land, enchanted of their meal, was busy to devour him, and with beautiful teeth. Then a door opened on the kitchen long of 3 meters. The vast canvases of the edge there, the electricity, more energetic and more obedient than the gas itself, made all the costs of the cooking. The wires arriving under the ovens communicated to platinum sponges a heat which distributed and maintained regularly. It also heated distillatory appliances, which speak the vaporization, provided excellent drinking water from this kitchen, opened a bathroom comfortably arranged, and whose taps provided cold water or hot water at will. To the kitchen succeeded the station of the crew, long 5 meters, but the door was closed, and I cannot see its arrangement, which may be muted, fixed on the number of men required by the maneuver of a Nautilus. At the bottom rise a 4th watertight bulkhead, which separated this station from the engine room. A door opened, and I was in this compartment where Captain Nemo, engineer of first order, had arranged his locomotion devices. This clearly lit engine room was not less than 20 meters in length. It was naturally divided into 2 parts, the first containing the elements which produced the electricity, and the second, the mechanism which transmitted the movement to the propeller. I was initially surprised by the smell of swiggeries, which Captain Nemo saw my impression. It is told me a few gas releases, produced by the use of sodium musses, only a slight inconvenience every morning. Besides, we purify the ship by ventilating it in the open air. However, I examined with easy interest to design the machine of the Nautilus. You see, it tells me, Captain Nemo, I use benzene elements and not room body elements. This just was powerless. The benzene elements are few, but strong and large, which is better experience made. The electricity produced goes to the rear, where it acts by large electromagnets on a particular system of lever and gear, which transmit the movement to the shaft of the propeller. This one, whose diameter is 6 meters and the pitch of 7 meters 50, can give up to 120 revolutions per second, and you then obtain a speed of 50 miles per hour. There was a mystery, but I did not insist to know how the electricity could act with such power. Where this almost unlimited force take its origin was in its excessive tension obtained by coils of a new kind, and it is in its transmission that an unknown lever system could increase. Infinity is what I couldn't understand. Captain Nemo says, I see the results, and I don't try to explain them. I saw the Nautilus maneuver in front of the Abraham Lincoln, and I know what to hold on to. Its speed. But walking is not enough. You need to see where you go. You need to be able to go right to left, to top down. How do you reach the great depths where you find increasing resistance that is evaluated by hundreds of atmospheres? How do you go back to the surface of the ocean? Finally, how you keep yourself in the environment that suits you. I, indiscreet, ask you in no way. Did the teacher answer me? The captain, after a slight hesitation, since you must never leave this underwater boat. Come into the living room. It is our real working room, and there you will learn everything you need to know about the Nautilus.